The Nioh 2 Complete Edition releases on February 5th, but Dennis was already able to play through a preview version of this samurai game, and I always heard good things about it. It has an 85 on Metacritic, and I'm also always intrigued by the Japanese mythology. So I asked Dennis, who's more the pro Souls kind of player here on the channel, to dive in and explain you and me what makes Nioh 2 so great. Before we start though, I want to thank Koei Tecmo for sponsoring this video. Totally check Nioh 2 out via the link in the video description. That will support the channel as well. A like on the video would also help me out. And now let's go. Okay, Dennis, come in. You played a ton of Nioh 2 and I'm really curious about this game. So what was the true standout for you?
The true standout was definitely the combat system. There are a lot of things to go over and a lot of really cool things to show. Like, for instance, you have these mythical attacks where you either summon or turn yourself into a giant mythical creature. Like, for instance, you can summon a snake that will trample your enemies and poison them, which is super cool. And these actually drop as rewards from enemies, so that's already a really cool mechanic, where if you see an enemy use an attack against you and you're like, wow, that looks strong, there's actually a chance that that enemy drops an item which you can use to get that attack for yourself.
Wow.
And that's something that applies to bosses as well. So I had a lot of difficulty fighting this snake boss, for instance. I had to learn his attack pattern before I could truly beat him. But once I did, and it was a hard-fought fight, I was able to get that ability for myself. So that snake I just showed you is a possible reward from this boss fight, which makes it even cooler, I think, that when you defeat a really challenging boss, you know that at the end of it, there might be a reward for you where you can use that boss's power against enemies yourself, which is really cool.
And I see you use a huge katana right here. Are there a ton of different weapons you can use?
Definitely. So this is one of the slower, heavy-hitting ones, but there are also like faster ones like dual katanas or dual axes, and then some happy in-betweens. And to add to the variety as well, you can use different stances. So you have a high stance, a middle stance, and a low stance. Those are different for each weapon type. And basically, high stance is slow attacks would do a lot of damage. Middle stance is the in-between, and then low stance is very fast and very quick, but deals a lot less damage. And the cool thing is that there are even weapons that change like appearance or type, like the switchglaive, where if you change from low stance, you sort of use it like an extension of your own arm. And when you switch to high stance, it becomes a scythe. And then the middle stance, it is a more spear-like weapon. So there is a lot of variety in that department, where each weapon practically has 3 different modes as well that really change how you play and how you approach the combat in the game.
Okay, and is this like a weapon that you find in the world, or maybe from a drop from an enemy?
Well, there are a lot of different ways that you can get loot. So one of them are the 2 you just mentioned. Like, you can find them in chests around the world, or enemies drop them, and bosses have a specific chance to drop like high rarity items. But you can also craft them. There's a blacksmith system in the game where you can craft weapons. They have different rarities, different perks, and there are even systems where you can transfer the perk from one weapon to another one to like perfectly match your playstyle or the other equipment that you're using. So there's a lot of depth in picking your equipment and picking the right tools for the job as well.
Yeah, and skill trees, I already see it here in the menu. Like, I can imagine that's pretty in-depth as well.
Yeah, for sure. Each weapon has their own one, and there are different like moves you can unlock for each of the different stances. So for instance, I was using dual hatchets a lot during one part of my playthrough, and then for one of the attacks I could, instead of doing a regular combo finisher, like leap up into the air and throw my axe down, which is something that you unlock after you unlock skill points by using a specific weapon a lot. So the more you use a weapon, the more options are available to you, and you can do some really cool stuff with that as well.
But now that we're looking at the skill trees and the blacksmith system, it looks pretty overwhelming. Are you getting eased into it, or is it overall like really hardcore?
It is hardcore, definitely, but you will get eased into it. There are a lot of tutorials, some of them playable or some in like text format that you can read back. So if you're ever lost, you can just check back in your menu.
Nice.
And also, most of these things are really useful if you can use them, but if you're just good at dodging and knowing when to attack, you'll get quite far as well. So you don't need to use all of those things.
Awesome. And you also have like some shifts where you turn into a boss, it seems. Like, that looks awesome.
Yeah, that is one of the coolest abilities in the game. That's a yokai shift. So you get to pick a guardian spirit, and there are 3 different ones. And then at specific points during a fight, it's something that'll charge up, and then you can use that to enter a super powered state. And as you can see, beat the hell out of everything.
Wow.
So that's really cool.
Awesome. And of course, also good to note is that this is the complete edition, so it comes with all the DLCs. It has 4K support, up to 120 FPS on PC, and actually also on PlayStation 5. And there it also has the fast load times, 3D audio, adaptive triggers for the DualSense controller. I think we're totally up to speed now. Dennis, any closing thoughts before we end the video?
I definitely recommend the game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'll definitely be playing more of it after this. So
nice. As I said in the intro, if you want to check Nioh 2 out, then you can click the link in the video description. A like on the video would of course really help us out. You can check out our previous video by clicking on the screen. And for now, we will speak to you next time. Thanks again, Dennis, and goodbye.
Goodbye.